Folks, if you think grocery shopping is going to stay the same through 2025, think again. After months of analyzing supply chain reports, speaking with insiders, and digging into market data, I've uncovered shortages that will blindside most shoppers. These aren't the obvious items you'd expect. They're everyday products you use without a second thought. And by August 2025, many could vanish completely. Picture this. You walk into your store expecting the usual, only to find bare shelves and prices that have doubled on what's left. That's not a maybe. It's the direction we're heading. Climate disasters, broken trade agreements, and fragile supply chains are colliding into a perfect storm. The good news? You still have time to prepare. Today, I'm revealing 10 surprising grocery items experts say will disappear before September. Number 7 will shock you, and number 3 is something almost every household depends on daily. Number 10 on our list is something that might surprise you: specialty vinegars. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this doesn't matter, hear me out. We're not talking about your basic white vinegar here. I'm talking about balsamic, apple cider, rice wine, and all those gourmet varieties that have become staples in modern cooking. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. The majority of specialty vinegars come from regions that are getting absolutely hammered by extreme weather. Italy's balsamic production has been devastated by unprecedented heat waves. The traditional aging processes that create those complex flavors are being disrupted by temperature fluctuations that producers have never seen before. But it gets worse. The raw materials for these vinegars, the grapes, apples, and rice, are facing their own crises. Vineyards across Europe are reporting yields down by 40% compared to last year. Apple orchards in key producing regions are struggling with diseases that thrive in the changing climate conditions. The supply chain disruption is already starting. Major distributors are quietly warning restaurants and specialty stores that inventory levels are going to be unpredictable through 2025. Some varieties that you can buy today for $5 or $6 might cost $20 or $30 by summer, if you can find them at all. What makes this even more critical is that these specialty vinegars aren't just cooking ingredients, they're preservation tools. When other food storage methods become expensive or unavailable, vinegar-based preservation becomes essential. Smart shoppers are already stocking up on these varieties while they're still affordable and available. Moving on to number 9, and this one's going to hit close to home for a lot of people: premium olive oils. Not the cheap stuff in plastic bottles, but those beautiful glass bottles of extra virgin, cold-pressed liquid gold that serious cooks swear by. The Mediterranean region is facing its worst agricultural crisis in decades. Spain and Italy, which together produce about 70% of the world's olive oil, are dealing with a perfect storm of problems. Extended droughts have stressed olive trees beyond their breaking point. Temperatures have soared to levels that disrupt the delicate process of oil extraction. Here's where it gets really interesting. The olive oil industry operates on what's called a boom-bust cycle, but climate change has thrown that natural rhythm completely out of whack. Trees that should be producing peak yields are instead fighting for survival. Some groves that have been family-owned for generations are being abandoned because they're no longer economically viable. The ripple effects are already visible if you know where to look. Premium olive oil prices have quietly increased by 30% over the past 6 months. But most consumers haven't noticed because retailers are absorbing some of the cost to avoid sticker shock. That won't last much longer. Industry insiders are predicting that by late summer 2025, finding authentic, high-quality olive oil will be like finding a rare vintage wine. The stuff that's available will be priced accordingly. This isn't just about cooking. Olive oil has incredible shelf life when stored properly, and it's packed with healthy fats that become crucial when other food options are limited. Number 8 is going to surprise you because it's something most people use without thinking about it: natural food coloring. Those little bottles of red, blue, yellow, and green that make baking fun are about to become incredibly scarce. The natural food coloring industry relies heavily on specific plants and insects that are facing unprecedented challenges. Cochineal insects, which produce natural red coloring, are struggling with habitat destruction and climate changes in their native regions. The plants that create natural yellows and blues are being affected by changing rainfall patterns and soil conditions. But here's the real kicker: synthetic alternatives are facing their own problems. The chemical plants that produce artificial food coloring are dealing with supply shortages of raw materials and increased environmental regulations that are forcing some facilities to shut down temporarily or permanently. This might seem like a minor issue until you realize how much of our food supply depends on coloring. Everything from breakfast cereals to beverages to baked goods relies on these additives. When they become scarce, food manufacturers have to reformulate products, change suppliers, or discontinue items altogether. Parents who do a lot of baking with kids are going to feel this shortage particularly hard. Those fun rainbow cookies and colorful birthday cakes might become a lot more expensive or require some creative alternatives. Smart families are already stocking up on natural food coloring while it's still readily available. At number 7, we have something. At number 7, that's going to shock you, imported spices and seasonings. Not the basic salt and pepper sitting in your spice rack, but those exotic flavors that have become essential to modern cooking. We're talking about cardamom, saffron, vanilla beans, and dozens of other spices that transform ordinary meals into culinary adventures. The global spice trade is more fragile than most people realize. Many of these specialty spices come from specific regions with unique growing conditions, and those regions are getting hammered by extreme weather events. Madagascar, which produces 80% of the world's vanilla, has been devastated by cyclones and droughts. The vanilla beans that do survive are commanding astronomical prices. Saffron, already one of the most expensive spices in the world, comes primarily from Iran and Kashmir, regions dealing with political instability and water shortages. The delicate process of harvesting saffron requires stable conditions and experienced workers, both of which are becoming increasingly rare. But here's what most people don't know. The shipping and storage of spices is incredibly complex. These products are sensitive to temperature, humidity, and time. As global shipping becomes more expensive and unpredictable, many importers are choosing to focus on high-volume, low-margin products rather than specialty spices. The result is going to be bare spots in spice aisles that many home cooks have never seen before. Recipes that call for specific exotic spices might become impossible to make, or the cost of ingredients might make them prohibitively expensive. This is already happening in professional kitchens, where chefs are having to completely rethink their menus based on ingredient availability. As we move into number 5, we're getting into territory that's going to affect serious food enthusiasts, artisanal and craft food products. These are the small batch, locally made premium items that have exploded in popularity over the past decade. Craft hot sauces, artisanal pickles, small batch jams, and specialty condiments that add excitement to ordinary meals. The craft food industry operates on razor-thin margins and depends heavily on consistent supply chains for unique ingredients. When those ingredients become scarce or expensive, small producers simply can't absorb the cost the way large corporations can. Many craft food producers are already making the difficult decision to pause production or shut down entirely rather than compromise their quality standards. But there's another factor at play here that most consumers don't see. The distribution networks for craft foods are much more fragile than those for mass market products. These small companies often rely on specific distributors or direct sales that can be easily disrupted by economic pressures or logistical challenges. What makes this particularly frustrating for consumers is that these products often represent significant flavor upgrades over mass market alternatives. That amazing hot sauce you discovered at a farmer's market, or that perfect jam that transforms your morning toast, might simply disappear without warning. Unlike major brands that announce discontinuations, craft producers often just quietly stop making products when they become unsustainable. The window for securing your favorite artisanal products is closing faster than most people realize. If there's a craft food item you absolutely love, now is the time to stock up, because there's no guarantee it'll be available even a few months from now. Number 4 is going to hit households harder than most people expect: specialty baking ingredients. I'm talking about those premium extracts, unique flours, and specialized leavening agents that have become essential for serious home bakers and anyone who's gotten into the sourdough craze over the past few years. The baking ingredient supply chain is way more complicated than people realize. Take almond extract, for example. The almonds used for high-quality extract come from very specific regions in California that are facing severe water restrictions. Vanilla extract, which we touched on earlier, is seeing prices that would make your head spin. But it goes deeper than that. Specialty flours like bread flour, cake flour, and those ancient grain varieties that health-conscious bakers love. They come from wheat varieties that are grown in smaller quantities and require specific processing facilities. When those facilities face energy costs that have doubled or tripled, guess what happens? They shift production to basic all-purpose flour because it's more profitable. Here's what's really going to hurt: yeast. The commercial yeast industry is dominated by just a few major producers, and they're dealing with supply chain issues for the nutrients that yeast needs to grow. Temperature-controlled shipping for fresh yeast has become incredibly expensive, and many distributors are simply choosing not to carry specialty varieties. Baking enthusiasts who've gotten used to having access to every ingredient they need are going to face some harsh realities. That perfect sourdough recipe might become impossible to make exactly as intended. Holiday baking traditions that families have maintained for generations could get disrupted because key ingredients simply aren't available at any price. The smart bakers I know are already creating stockpiles of their essential ingredients. Yeast can be frozen, extracts last for years when stored properly, and specialty flours can be vacuum sealed for long-term storage. But you have to act now while these products are still on the shelves. Moving to number 3, and this is where things get really serious: imported coffee beans and premium coffee products. Before you panic, I'm not saying all coffee is going to disappear, but the coffee you actually want to drink? That's a different story entirely. The global coffee industry is facing what experts are calling a perfect storm. Climate change is devastating coffee-growing regions around the world. Brazil, which produces about 40% of the world's coffee, has been hit by frosts, droughts, and temperature swings that are destroying entire crops. Colombia, Ethiopia, and other premium coffee regions are dealing with similar challenges. But here's what most coffee drinkers don't understand. There's a huge difference between basic commodity coffee and the premium beans that create the flavors people actually enjoy. Those single-origin beans, fair trade varieties, and specialty roasts that make your morning coffee special, they come from specific farms in specific regions that are getting hammered by extreme weather. The economics are brutal. When coffee farmers are struggling to survive, they're not worried about maintaining the quality standards that premium buyers demand. They're focused on producing whatever they can sell, which means lower quality, less careful processing, and ultimately coffee that tastes like the basic stuff you're trying to avoid. Shipping costs for coffee have gone absolutely insane. Coffee beans are heavy, they require climate-controlled transport, and they're time-sensitive. Many importers are choosing to focus on high-volume, low-quality coffee because the profit margins on premium beans have been completely destroyed by logistics costs. What this means for your daily routine is significant. That $15 bag of premium coffee beans might become a $40 bag, if you can find it at all. Coffee shops are already starting to reformulate their blends using cheaper beans while maintaining the same prices. The coffee experience that people have gotten accustomed to is quietly disappearing. Coffee has incredible shelf life when stored properly, and serious coffee drinkers are already creating stockpiles of their favorite beans. Green coffee beans can last for years when stored correctly, and even roasted beans maintain their quality much longer than most people think. Number 2 is going to affect every household in America: cleaning supplies and household chemicals. Not the basic soap and bleach that everyone thinks about, but the specialized cleaning products that have become essential for modern life. Disinfectants, stain removers, specialty detergents, and all those products that make household maintenance manageable. The chemical industry is facing massive disruptions that most consumers have no idea about. The raw materials for cleaning products come from petrochemical facilities that are dealing with supply shortages, environmental regulations, and energy costs that have made many products unprofitable to manufacture. Here's what's really concerning. Many cleaning product manufacturers are quietly discontinuing their less popular items to focus on high-volume basics. Those specialty stain removers that work miracles on specific problems, the enzyme-based cleaners that are safe for families with kids, the eco-friendly alternatives that actually work, they're disappearing from production schedules because they're too expensive and complicated to make. The packaging situation is making everything worse. The plastic bottles, spray mechanisms, and specialized containers that cleaning products require are facing their own supply chain crisis. Some manufacturers are choosing to stop making certain products entirely rather than deal with packaging shortages and cost increases. What this means for your household is that cleaning is going to become more expensive and less effective. You'll be stuck with basic products that don't work as well, cost more, and force you to use more elbow grease to get the same results. The convenience and effectiveness that modern cleaning products provide is something most people take for granted until it's gone. Smart households are already stocking up on their essential cleaning supplies while they're still available. These products have excellent shelf life when stored properly, and having a good supply means you won't be forced to pay premium prices or settle for inferior alternatives. And now we reach number one, the most surprising item that's going to disappear before September 2025: fresh herbs and delicate produce. I'm not talking about basic vegetables like potatoes and onions. I'm talking about the fresh herbs, specialty greens, and delicate fruits that transform ordinary meals into something special. The fresh herb industry is incredibly fragile because these products have such short shelf lives and require perfect growing conditions. Basil, cilantro, dill, parsley, and all those fresh herbs that add life to your cooking come from specialized farms that are getting destroyed by extreme weather events. But here's the part that's going to shock you. The logistics of fresh herb distribution are completely falling apart. These products need temperature-controlled transport, quick handling, and perfect timing to reach consumers while they're still fresh. As shipping costs have exploded and labor shortages have affected every part of the supply chain, many distributors are simply choosing not to carry fresh herbs because the profit margins have been destroyed. The greenhouse operations that produce fresh herbs year-round are facing energy costs that have made many facilities unprofitable. Heating and cooling greenhouses requires massive amounts of energy, and when those costs triple or quadruple, the math simply doesn't work anymore. What this means for home cooking is devastating. Fresh herbs are what separate good cooking from great cooking. They're what make simple meals taste restaurant quality. When they become unavailable or prohibitively expensive, home cooks are going to have to completely rethink how they approach food preparation. The smart move here is learning how to preserve fresh herbs when they're available. Freezing, drying, and creating herb-infused oils can extend the life of these precious ingredients. But you need to act now while fresh herbs are still accessible and affordable. Here's what you need to understand about all 10 of these items. They're connected. When one part of the food system fails, ripple effects spread everywhere. These shortages aren't isolated events. They're part of a larger transformation in how food is produced, distributed, and consumed in America. The families who thrive will be the ones who prepare early. That means building smart stockpiles, learning basic preservation skills, and realizing that grocery shopping is about to look very different. But every crisis brings opportunity. These disruptions are forcing innovation, encouraging new local food systems, and reviving traditional skills. Communities that adapt will become stronger and more resilient. The 10 items we've covered are your early warning system. When you start seeing them vanish or spike in price, it's a signal that broader shortages are building. Pay attention to subtle signs in your own store: sparse shelves and specialty items, brands disappearing, or frequent out-of-stock tags. These aren't coincidences. They're the tremors before the quake. Most stores run on just-in-time delivery, keeping only a few days of inventory on hand. That system collapses fast under stress. What looks like a temporary gap today can become a months-long shortage tomorrow. The most prepared families aren't hoarding. They're strategically identifying essentials their households can't live without, and securing them now. Think about your daily routines. What items would truly disrupt your life if they disappeared? Coffee, flour, cleaning products, whatever those essentials are, start building reserves today. Doing this proactively keeps you in control rather than scrambling after shelves go empty. These shifts also create opportunities. Local producers, farmers markets, and cooperatives are already filling gaps left by global supply chains. Building relationships with nearby growers and suppliers now ensures consistency later while supporting your local economy. Timing is critical. Right now, supplies are still available and prices are relatively stable. That won't last. Shortages don't arrive gradually, they hit suddenly. One day everything looks normal, the next, entire categories are gone. By preparing now, you're buying not just products, but peace of mind and flexibility. Storage and preservation skills are your secret weapon. Many products, from olive oil to spices, can last for years with proper storage. Learning to vacuum, seal, freeze, or preserve fresh items extends their life and saves you money in the long run. Families who master these skills will find themselves spending less and eating better. This transition isn't about becoming a survivalist, it's about being smart, paying attention to trends, and protecting the people you care about. The window for calm, affordable preparation is closing. Each week, the signs get clearer. The choice is simple: wait and hope for the best, or act now while shelves are still full. The disruptions are already in motion. The question isn't whether they'll happen, it's whether you'll be ready when they do. There you have it, folks. 10 grocery items that are about to disappear from store shelves, while most people are completely oblivious to what's coming. From specialty vinegars to fresh herbs, these aren't just random shortages we're talking about. These are strategic supply chain breakdowns that are going to reshape how Americans shop for food. The families who take action now, who build smart reserves while prices are still reasonable, they're going to be the ones laughing while everyone else is scrambling. Don't be caught off guard when September rolls around and these predictions start becoming your reality. The time to prepare is right now, not when the shelves are already empty.